Shalom. This week we are reading Parashat Shoftim, Judges. Judges and officers shall you appoint in all your cities. Last week in Parashat Re'eh, Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses began to develop the theme of the place which Hashem will choose. He began to inform the people of Israel of temple consciousness, that their entire identity as a nation will be concretized, will be focused on the place that Hashem will choose, on the Holy Temple, and from there really will flow the knowledge of Torah to them as a nation, to the land, and to the whole world. This week's Parashat Shoftim, we continue really with the idea of the transformation, the development of the people of Israel from a group of individuals to a nation, centered around this newfound consciousness, this newfound identity, the reality of the place that Hashem will choose in their midst, and the establishment of institutions for safeguarding, protecting, and developing the standards of the Torah throughout the whole world. First and foremost, through the nation of Israel, and then to the whole world. So we read, judges and officers shall you appoint in all your cities, which Hashem your God gives you for your tribes, and they shall judge the people with righteous judgment. So these are going to be the officers that are going to see to it that the Torah is the rule of the land, and that the standards of the Torah are the standards of the nation. You shall not pervert judgment. You shall not respect someone's presence, meaning you shall not show favoritism. And you shall not accept a bribe, for the bribe will blind the eyes of the wise and make just words crooked. Righteousness, righteousness shall you pursue, so that you will live and possess the land that Hashem your God gives you. And this concept, this double language, the repetition of the word tzedek, tzedek, tzedek tirdof. Righteousness, righteousness shall you pursue. It's sometimes translated as just and right, or that which is just and good. This is what you shall pursue. So this is such an important and central verse, as our sages tell us. From here, really, we learn everything. This is a direct result of the temple consciousness. The definition of everything is going to be the pursuit of everything that is right and good, of course, according to the Torah. And that will be the key, the verse tells us, so that you will live and possess the land that Hashem your God shall give you. So, again, from the temple shall go forth the knowledge of Torah. That will be the focus of all of our attention and identity as a people. And now, again, continuing this theme of the transformation of individuals to a nation, we have the concept of the institutions that will safeguard and uphold the rule of Torah, and really the quality of our lives as this nation of God in the Holy Land. The level of our existence shall be according to the Torah. And yet still, this seems to be an obligation of every individual, because interestingly we see that the verse is really in the singular. When we are told, judges and officers shall you appoint in all your cities, which Hashem your God gives you for your tribes, and they shall judge the people with righteous judgment. You shall not pervert judgment. You shall not respect someone's presence. Righteousness, righteousness shall you pursue, so that you will live and possess the land that Hashem your God gives you. All of this is in the singular, obviously indicating to us that the nation is still made up of individuals. But this whole idea of pursuing righteousness reminds us that Israel has one task, one goal, which is for its own sake, and that is to pursue everything that is right. This is a nation that is to be completely obsessed, completely fixated with this one idea, that everything that we're going to be involved in, whether it's in the public arena or whether it is a private pursuit, it's all going to be in accordance with God's Torah, so that you will live and possess the land that Hashem your God gives you. what is the difference between living there and possessing it? We know every word of the Torah is so deep and contains such meaning. There are two levels that are being referred to here: to live in the land and to possess it. One level is physical, to live in the land, and the other, to possess it, is a question of our sovereignty. It's the political level of our lives. And the security of the land and the security of our lives and our sovereignty is only going to be guaranteed through the pursuit of righteousness, which is what? Which is the Torah itself. Because, and it has to be so vigorously pursued that it has to be repeated. Righteousness, righteousness, righteousness can be very murky to us. It can run ahead of us, so we can be pursuing it. But where did it go exactly? I'm looking for it, but it's kind of hiding. It's maybe confusing us. So, these verses, which are so laden with portent for the future of how this nation of individuals is going to be so centered on this consciousness. Again, it's not about the place of the temple, it's about the spirit of Hashem and the true righteousness of Torah, which is emanating from that place and which is going to be upheld now by these newly founded institutions, by the judges, by the officers. So there's something here that is really a little bit mysterious. Okay, we're told about the necessity for the establishment of a system that will uphold this righteousness of the Torah and remind us that on every level, public and private, that we're to constantly pursue everything that is just and good and right, and that is the essence of the Torah itself, and that this will be the secret of our ability to live and possess the land on a physical level and on a level of our political integrity as well. And then the very next verse that I read here is, you shall not plant for yourself an idolatrous tree. You shall not plant for yourselves an idolatrous tree, that's an Asherah, any tree, near the altar of Hashem your God, that you shall make for yourself. And you shall not erect for yourselves a pillar, which Hashem your God hates. So we're moving here from a sublime concept of the pursuits of righteousness at any cost, and the diligence and the caution that we have to exercise to make sure that there's no perversion of justice. These are very sublime concepts, and they are a watchword, they are a hallmark, they are a guiding light to how the nation must develop coming into the land. And then all of a sudden, it's like we get a warning. Now, don't, revert, throwback to any sort of real rank pagan idolatrous practices. Don't make an Asherah, or in fact any tree, near the altar of Hashem. Of course, from this we derive the ruling that on the Temple Mount there are not to be any trees. There is a prohibition against an Asherah, which is a specific type of tree that was worshipped, or any tree for that matter at all. The verse continues and tells us, near the altar of Hashem. Now, what is the connection between the prohibition of this pagan rites of tree worship and how there certainly can't be any sort of tree near the altar of Hashem? What is the continuation? What is the connection? We know that every aspect of the Torah is so totally full of meaning. How is it that we're moving here from the broad concept of the pursuit of justice and righteousness to a very specific prohibition against having an idolatrous tree near the altar of the one true God in the place that he chose? And then continuing with this idea of a matzeva, of a monument or a pillar. And again, everything is flowing from the consciousness of the temple, and everything is flowing according to the tempo, according to the pace of tzedek, tzedek tirdof. You shall so vigorously, constantly, on every level of your existence, public and private, consciously, subconsciously, be pursuing what is just and what is true. What is the connection? Well, what is an Asherah? An Asherah is a tree that was supposed to be under the protection of some patron god or goddess. And this tree essentially represents a very physical manifestation of God in this world. Because after all, the heathen gods are forces that are manifest in nature. And the idea of the Asherah was that by tending to this tree and making it thrive, and that is the root of the word asher, to be, it's a connotation of wellness, of thriving. So by making this tree thrive and showing it honor, one would be essentially under the protection of this God, and thus it would be a connection with physical prosperity as is manifest in a very physical world. Well, the Jewish concept of God that the people of Israel are to maintain and to vigorously pursue and to, through them, have flow into the entire world, this Jewish concept of God is exactly the opposite. Because the idea of our recognition of God in the physical world is that by submitting ourselves, and only by submitting ourselves, our whole being, our spiritual side as well as our physical, and that includes all of our desires and all of our actions, only by that kind of total dedication and submission can a person also be blessed in the physical world. So this idea of the Asherah, the idea of the tree worship, of the worship of the God of nature, manifest in the physical world, is like, kind of like this pagan mindset of a shortcut, of a way to be connected holistically, they would call it. They would call it naturally, to the natural world, but without having to invest the work of self-improvement, of self-knowledge, the step-by-step devotion of real avodah, of service of God, of submitting one's entire being to the oneness of God, and being and one's being a reflection, becoming a reflection of that oneness. So to have this Asherah, to have this tree, which is essentially a type of shortcut, a type of manifestation of a very narrow, myopic, physical worldview, which is hedonistic and which is totally devoted to a very base physical manifestation of spirituality in this world, that is something that God abhors. And so he warns us, a tree of this nature, an outcropping of a mere physical, skin-deep level of relationship with some God that we attach ourselves to, a God, only for the purpose of trying to guarantee our success in a world without meaning, without true meaning. We are warned specifically not to plant such a tree near the altar of the God of Israel. And the verse tells us, and this is so beautiful, the verse says, "You shall not plant for yourselves an idolatrous tree, any tree, near the altar of Hashem your God, that you shall make for yourself." And this is the language of the verse, not to plant this tree near the altar asher ta'aseh lach. It's the altar of God. It's the altar of the one true God. It's his altar, but you're making that altar for yourself. And this is such a key Torah principle. In other words, why are you creating that altar for God? Why are you commanded to make an altar for God? It's for yourself. It is for you to go through the process, the experience of taking your entire composite manifest being on every level of your will, your lusts, your desire, and then your actions that are physically manifest, and take them all, and you're taking them to that altar. You're taking them, you are you are submitting yourself completely to that altar. So the Temple Mount area has to be clean. It has to be smooth. There can't be any of these outcroppings of this type of mentality that a person could just somehow circumnavigate what it really takes to be a person in this world, to take everything that you are and to take that to Hashem's altar, the altar that you make for yourself. Why are you making Hashem's altar? Does he need it? Does he want it? No, it's for you. Hashem's altar, he says, the altar that you make for Hashem, your God, for yourself. It's all about coming to that altar and going through everything that you go through, bringing something to that altar in order for you to become the person that you could become. And that's why we have this reminder, and that's why this verse appears here. Because this too is a direct result of our national, total fixation, focus on righteousness. Righteousness shall you pursue. When that becomes so deeply ingrained and embedded as our national pastime, as our national motivation, as our national DNA, all part of the place that Hashem will choose, all a result of our national identity, and from there flowing the Torah, and from there coming the Shoftim and the Shotrim, the judges and the officers, making sure that we are all totally consciously, nationally, politically, privately, publicly focused on the righteousness of the Torah. And don't forget, there isn't any shortcut, and it's not what you see, and it's not that Asherah, oh, just you can make it thrive, and you can be blessed, and you can be financially successful, and you can be a success, you can accomplish something in the physical world. No. You can't accomplish anything in the physical world without realizing that you have to come to the altar of Hashem, your God, that you're making for yourself. Take your entire essence to the altar and go through that experience. So such an idolatrous tree near the altar of Hashem would be a perversion of the succinct summation of the Torah's message: pursue righteousness at all costs. And such a tree, meaning such a take on the natural physical world as being something that you can thrive from and get into and be part of and receive its blessing without becoming the person that Hashem, your God, tells you that you can be, that would totally cloud the Jewish conception of what God is and why Hashem is bringing us to this place altogether. And thus, we have a very enigmatic statement that our sages make. Our sages actually deduce another thing in the oral tradition. Why is it that this verse, they tell us, you shall not plant for yourselves an idolatrous tree, any tree near the altar of Hashem your God, why is this connected to the previous verse, righteousness, righteousness shall you pursue? They tell us, this teaches us that if a unworthy judge is appointed over the community, that is as if we planted an Asherah. What does that mean? That cryptic, enigmatic statement of our sages that if an unworthy judge, someone who is not really qualified to be a judge over the community, if you appoint such a man, well, that is in itself the prohibition of planting an Asherah near the altar of Hashem. Why is that? Because this person is not really on the level of dedication to preserving the national standard of what Israel really is all about. The awesome responsibility of what it really means to be a truly God-fearing judge or officer for Israel. He is not in tune with the national standard, just as the Asherah is a cheap fix, quick fix, to undermine and to circumvent the high national standard and to try to feel whole and to try to connect to an illusion of physical blessing in this world without really adhering to the highest level of the pursuit of righteousness. And all of this, again, a direct result and continuation of that tremendous exhortation that seems to include so much. Righteousness, righteousness shall you pursue. And then we find the verse, and you shall not erect for yourselves a pillar which Hashem your God hates. And this word is a matzeva. And this is also a very mysterious idea. Hashem hates a matzeva. And yet we find that before the Torah was given, and before the true establishment of the state of Israel, our holy forefathers made matzevot. They erected monuments. Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov erected a monument. Yet our sages tell us, in a very mysterious way, the expression is, that which was beloved for the fathers is hated for the children. After the Torah was given, after we became a nation, we became established, we come into the land of Israel, we established the temple, God says, no, you cannot erect anymore a monument. And this too is a very beautiful insight into the entire concept that we're discussing here today. What is a matzeva? A matzeva is a monument acknowledging something that God has done for us that is manifest in nature or in history. It is a monument of acknowledging God. But a mizbeach, which is also erected by human hands, just as a matzeva, a pillar, a monument, is a few stones that are put together in acknowledgement of God. But a mizbeach is a few stones that's put together by human hands, but that is totally different. That is the true essence of Jewish worship of the one true God, that we are now authorized and entrusted with as becoming a nation and is coming into the place that Hashem will choose, because it's at the Mizbeach that we don't just acknowledge what God has done in the natural world or in history. It's where we submit our entire selves to Him. And from this time on, what was beloved for the forefathers, before the Torah was given, a matzeva, the establishment of a monument, is now God abhors for His children. He expects the nation to continue now on this path. It's no longer sufficient to recognize God's presence throughout our history and what He has done for us. Now it's necessary for us to totally submit ourselves, every aspect of our being, of our desires, of our innermost nature. It's necessary for us to submit that, and that's the experience of bringing something to the altar. And that is the national destiny of the people of Israel. That is the natural outcome of our call to pursue righteousness in totality. It will bring us to the point of not just recognizing God and never, God forbid, seeking a shortcut, but of taking that desire for righteousness to such a place on such a deep level that we are willing and able and ready to teach the world that the way to truly recognize God is to bring every aspect of our being to Him, to submit that, and to grow and to change and to elevate ourselves, and to bring that message of righteousness through the place that He will choose and through the holiness of the land of Israel, to bring that to the entire world.